again. Today we're going to chapter 3 of the Sutta Discovery, volume 41, ST 41.3. Today we'll do two suttas, because these are two short suttas, and this number 3 is entitled Samatha Vipassana Samadhi Sutta 3. So there are 3 suttas by this same name, so this is the third one. Or in Pali we say Tatiya Samatha Vipassana Samadhi Sutta. The third discourse on Samadhi in terms of calm and insight. Or another way is you can translate as the Samatha Vipassana Sutta on Samadhi. That's another way. A4.94. The location is in the Book of Forms of Anguttara Nikaya. There are 4 items. Sutta 94. From the title itself, we can see it's obvious that Samatha Vipassana are both the subject of the sutta. In fact, they're very important aspects of meditation. Today, when we talk about Vipassana, very often, especially people who are new to Buddhism, we tend to think of it as a kind of meditation. But in a sense, we're not wrong, because a lot of people have been doing so-called Vipassana meditation. But there are also certain practitioners who do not regard Vipassana as a separate meditation. So we have a divergence here, in other words. Buddhist meditation has grown so wide today, after 2,500 years, so it is not surprising. There are many different methods. Now, the good thing about this variety is that we all have a choice, right? Because, as you know, meditation is not something easy to do, and a lot of success in meditation depends on our personality, our inclination, the situation that we are in right now, or right at the time we are meditating, the kind of environment that you are meditating in, the kind of teacher that you meet, and so on and so forth. So, for myself, I have gone through both the so-called Vipassana meditation under Master Sayadaw himself, who is said to be the founder, or rather one of the key teachers of this Vipassana of the Burmese tradition. And also there is Ajahn Chah's tradition, the forest method. So both work for me and both are useful, and when I teach I find I need to teach both depending on the needs of the practitioner. So in a sense, variety helps. Basically we should know what to teach to different kinds of people. At the same time, we must also remember the purpose of meditation, and also what I call the dynamics of meditation. In other words, you don't just teach people to sit. It's not so simple as that. A lot of people know the mechanics of meditation. In other words, we know these are the things we do, and so on. But the sitting is not always effective. Sometimes it is counterproductive. Breakdowns are known to happen in certain kinds of meditation where people are forced to sit too long and they're not given proper counseling. The moment you come in, you're told to sit down and do a long sitting, which is not healthy, which is risky in fact. So we have come to a point in our times when modern learning, especially psychology, is also studying meditation and looking at early Buddhism from various points of view, not just meditation but also philosophy. So in other words, Buddhism has become a kind of open source teaching. In other words, anyone can study Buddhism, anyone can talk about Buddhism. It is a very free teaching, and there are many advantages there. For example, I'm writing a paper on free will, and there's so much intelligent writings by some of the greatest minds today, some of the greatest philosophers who write about free will in Buddhism, and I'm personally impressed, and I feel that it's our good fortune as Buddhists to have such great minds. Imagine the greatest minds in philosophy today who are still alive, who are writing sympathetically to help us understand some of these deeper aspects of Buddhism today, which are relevant to our own times. Imagine if these writers are not sympathetic to Buddhism, then we have more problems, So this shows that there are things in Buddhism which are really useful and relevant to our times. And of course, for us today, this most important aspect is mind training or meditation. So this is where, like I said, we got to go back to basics. Because of the so many views we have today which are allowed in Buddhism, which is a very free religion, you're not going to be stoned to death, or you're not going to be burned at the stakes because you speak differently. Of course, like I said, there is a cost there. See? And sometimes the loudest voice that is heard, and the biggest audience that's gets heard. The speaker of the biggest audience gets heard. So this is where sometimes the message does get lost through the audience as well as the messenger. But the Buddha in his wisdom has given us a kind of a safety device to go back to whenever we are confused. And you've got to go back to the suttas whenever you're confused. And do not assume that the early suttas are simple. They're quite deep. They can go very deep if you study them properly. So today is an example of a sutta where you see this, where the Buddha talks about the nature of meditation in terms of samatha vipassana. Why samatha vipassana? Remember, here we're talking about samatha vipassana as the Buddha would have taught it, or as close to the time of the Buddha. We have two aspects in our life when we meditate. One is the head, one is the heart, if you like. So some people, they can straight away sit, they feel very peaceful. Like last week we had a lady who came for a meditation, a personal session. First time she's doing meditation, and I taught her breath and I said, wow, this is very good, Can we sit longer? We sat for 15 minutes and you can feel that she's at peace with herself. Then she came to the second lesson, we did loving kindness. And she said, wow, this is even better, Can we sit longer, So I told myself, you're very lucky. First lesson, you're already enjoying it, so very good karma. So, but everybody is like that. Out of 100, if you can get 1 or 2% is very wonderful who's like that. Straight away, first time, sits and really enjoys it. So, most of us would have to deal with different aspects. For example, if we are very much of a head person, maybe breath might help, So we might feel a bit calm, but then you have difficulty with loving kindness, So it goes like that. And if you're a very sociable person, you find loving kindness is great, but very difficult to keep calm through breath. So you have to balance both. Okay? But samatha vipassana, what about them? Samatha means calm. The vipassana means wisdom, right? So here, what does it mean? Okay, so this is where, let's look at the sutta and then our comment carry on from there, okay? Let's look at page 53. The third samatha vipassana discourse on samadhi. You can have the brackets samatha vipassana in English, so there are no diacritics there. Samatha vipassana discourse on samadhi, A494. 4 kinds of meditation, okay, not this, 4 aspects or 4 kinds, if you like. Bhikshus, there are these 4 kinds of persons in the world. Notice what is said here. 4 kinds of persons in the world. The Buddha didn't say 4 kinds of meditation in the world. What are the 4? Here, bhikshus, a certain person is an attainer of inner mental calm, but not an attainer of higher wisdom that is insight into states or into things, into phenomena. Number 2, here, bhikshus, a certain person is an attainer of higher wisdom or panya, or vipassana, that is insight into states, but not an attainer of inner mental calm. Okay, so look at this again. The first one, this person is calm, but wisdom not cultivated yet. Second person, has wisdom but calm not cultivated yet. Number 3, here bhikshus, a person is neither an attainer of inner mental calm nor an attainer of higher wisdom, that is insight into state. So the third person is neither. Number 4 is the best. Here bhikshus, a certain person is both an attainer of inner mental calm and an attainer of higher wisdom, that is insight into states too. Okay, so we have the 2 keywords there, samatha vipassana. Samatha here is translated as inner mental calm or higher mental calm, if you like. Whenever you see a sutta text, they use the word inner, they mean personal, it means you yourself. Okay? And then wisdom is higher wisdom. This refers to insight wisdom, wisdom into the reality of things. So this is the summary, and then the elaboration starts. Okay, I've numbered for you all those things, brackets 1, 2, 3, 4. So have a quick look and to have an idea, a map of the sutta, you'll find. In other translations, usually they won't put all these headings for you because of space constraint. So in the Sutta Discovery, we regard that we have boundless space. You can use as much paper as you want. The idea is to present the Dhamma in a visual way. When you look at the words, it at once, or at least it comes to you in a clear way. These are the topics, as far as possible, put into nice paragraphs so it helps you to follow. Okay? So brackets 1, attainer of calm but not of insight. Okay, so this is how the Buddha describes this person. Remember, again here the Buddha is talking about person, not even a method. Meaning, it depends on our needs as a practitioner, and we use that kind of practice. 2.1. Here bhikshus, as for that person who is an attainer of inner mental calm but not an attainer of higher wisdom, that is insight into states, he bhikshus should approach an attainer of higher wisdom, that is insight into states, with these words: how avuso should formations or conditioned states be seen? How should formations be comprehended? How should formations be penetrated with insight? Okay, so here you are. The student asks questions, they ask relevant questions. So notice here, in meditation, the kinds of questions you ask are very important. Now that's the reason why you notice, there are 2 kinds of monks who give talks. The first kind are those who can ask anything. The problem with this kind of situation, not the monk, the situation is that you go back with a lot of information, but they are not much of help in your practice. You know more, yes, but they're not very helpful knowledge really. But usually this kind of monk, they'll be very kind to you, very generous, because they're there to inspire you, give you time, take your time to look for something in Buddhism which will attract you, and then you go at your own pace. The other kind of monk would be the serious meditators, and recently a group of them came, Chan Sumedo and company. I was told that they give talks, but that's all they do. A lot of people approach them with questions, but they're not so friendly, not so engaging rather. Okay, you can't socialize with them. You can't talk about anything else except meditation. Okay? Even then, they are not so loquacious. They don't talk so much about it. Just give a talk. That's the end of it. Finish. Sometimes I was told there's no question time even. So I was wondering why they're like that. One reason is because they are very serious about their meditation. Even having to leave their monastery to come all the way to Singapore is a big jump for them. I don't know how they actually made it here, because usually they won't leave their monasteries. They'll be quite happy staying at home. And when they do come and you know how to approach them, you really truly benefit from them. Anyway, the reason here is because they are working very hard to practice. The problem it is this kind of apparent insularity. In other words, they appear to be very detached. It's very hard to approach them. You can't go up to them and simply talk anything. That imagine, sometime in the past, some Buddhists say, oh, these monks are not very engaging, they're not compassionate, and so on and so forth, whereas the Bodhisattva is more compassionate and so on. So this one possible reason why you have this new group of people who felt that they should be more engaging, which I totally agree. You need different kinds of approaches. It'd be very difficult for beginners. For example, they're very new to Buddhism, they come and see this kind of monk and he won't answer questions. So you can say it's quite difficult. So we need both aspects, and they need to be connected somehow and so on. But in a sense, we have to respect people when they decide what kind of practice they want to take up. So these monks, they put their practice first. They put their own understanding of Dharma first. So, however, I suspect that if you are really serious about your practice and you approach them with a proper time, proper way, you will get your answers. And this is one of the things I always do when I go to certain monasteries. Okay, for example, I was in Perth. I wanted to talk to some of the monks there, especially Ajahn Ramali, for example. Then so I had to ask around, how do I talk to him? Every monastery has a different method, so you have to find out what is the protocol, so to speak. So I was told, immediately after lunch, he takes a cup of thick coffee, lots of milk. So you bring this to him, and once he drinks that, he is in a chatting room. So you can talk to him and ask him all the questions you want. I said, okay, that's good. Those tips are very useful. Okay. and I did that, and I said I would say very good talk. But what's interesting is, he's not the kind of, despite that, he's not the kind of person who is engaging. He's not going to have small talk with you. He's not going to talk about other things except the Dharma. So in a sense, it saves a lot of time. You just talk about, that's all, the Dharma, see? And because there are a lot of people to talk with anyway. So this is where we cannot treat renunciants the way we treat worldly people, or worldly teachers. They are if they are serious practitioners and they attain to some level, of course we won't know what level, we know from their peacefulness and their moral virtue, obviously they have been practicing. It's really wonderful to learn from them, because they don't often come to the public and give the kind of talks that you hear in a normal public talk. Usually you don't learn much from public talk. They're entertaining, yes, informative, yes, but whether you can practice on those kind of teachings or not is another matter. So these are some things we need to learn about monks who are serious meditators, okay? Because they're not meant to be they are in the world, but they're not meant to be of the world anymore. So we cannot judge them from our standards. They are different. They are renunciants. They're meant to be that way. The problem why we meet them more easily now is because the world is getting smaller, travel is getting easier. Those days it takes long, very difficult to travel. So a monk is in Thailand, you'll never have a chance to see them unless you make the effort to go there. So these are things we have to remember. What have these monks renounced for, and the nature of their mental state? How can we approach them to learn? So they are filled with this calmness and this insight, balance in them. So for us, if in the first case here, you find this person, look at the person, it says here, he has calmness, but not, he has to ask all the right questions. How also should formation be seen? Here, formations refers to everything in this universe. All those things that are formed, that have a reason in the universe. How should we look at them? How should we view them? Number two, how should we understand them? What do we do with that knowledge? Number three, how should they be penetrated with insight? How do we go beyond that understanding? Okay. Then, the Buddha is teaching here, he says, he then answers him, here the teacher answers him, as he has seen, as he has known. Formations should be seen thus, formations should be comprehended thus, formation should be penetrated with insight thus. Okay? Notice again here, the answer here is a framework. There's nothing fixed here. It's not like those what you call model essay answers in the school exams. The what is thus. I'll come back to this in a moment. In due course, he is both an attainer of inner mental calm and an attainer of higher wisdom, that is insight into stage 2. Alright? Okay, so in other words, if you are going to learn meditation, these are the questions you should ask. How should I see the things around me in this world? So the reply is, they should be seen as being impermanent. That's the simplest way to answer. See everything around you as impermanent. Okay? Now, second question, formation how should be understood? How should be comprehended? Since they are impermanent, they are therefore unsatisfactory. And what is impermanent and unsatisfactory would have no self. That's our understanding. Then the third one, formation should be penetrated. How should we use this understanding to remove ignorance? Okay, this one is a bit tricky. This is the one that you have to reflect, and then some change occurs in your being. You begin to see things more clearly and deeply in other words. The word insight, sight into or through reality. You might even say through sight, if there's such a word. Okay? So that's an example of how the teacher would answer these kind of questions. Notice these are not discursive answers. They are instructive answers. In other words, how do you do something? Okay? So this is the way meditation teachers will answer you, in other words. Okay, so this is the first one. This person who is able to attain calmness, but he needs to cultivate wisdom. So we ask all these questions. Now the second kind of person, attainer of insight but not of calm. Here Bhikshu says, for that person who is an attainer of higher wisdom, and that is insight into states, but not an attainer of inner mental calm, he, Bhikshu, should approach an attainer of inner mental calm with these words. So in this case, this person who samatha, calmness is not strong, he goes to someone who's meditation teacher whose calmness is good. Okay, so and these are the questions he should ask. Look at 3.2. He, Bhikshu, should approach the teacher and ask, how also should the mind or thoughts be steadied? Notice these are very helpful questions. So in the same, this sutta is telling you what kind of questions to ask the teacher. How also should the mind or thoughts be steadied? How should the mind be composed? How should the mind be settled, calmed? How should the mind be unified, made one? How should the mind be concentrated? Okay, so there are different stages here. He then answers him as he has seen, as he has known. The mind should be steadied in this way, the mind should be composed in this way, the mind should be unified thus, the mind should be concentrated thus. By the way, the word concentrated can also be translated as stilled. Still is okay. In due course, he is both an attainer of higher wisdom, which is insight into states, and an attainer of inner mental calm too. Now, who is this kind of person? Now, he has a lot of Dharma knowledge, probably, and he understands or accepts impermanence, but he's not calm enough. Okay, like a scholar, like. So how do I calm myself? Basically, he's asking. So you can see from this question, first we have to learn to steady the mind, and next compose it, then unify it, concentrate it, or still, S-T-I-L-L, still. Okay, one way of answering this is you can use a diagram on the board here, right? How is the mind steadied? Okay. Now, before the mind can be steadied, you must steady the body. Okay, the body must be calm first, and that's what the precepts are about. Someone who keeps the precepts well, at least for the duration of the meditation, that person would be said to be bhavita kaya. Bhavita kaya. Bhavita means cultivated. Kaya means body. One whose body is cultivated. So here, body cultivated doesn't mean big muscles. It means you're morally virtuous. You do not have any trouble with the body. The body and your speech is not the source of conflict. It's not the source of worries and distraction during your meditation. Because if you don't keep your precepts well, then you can have difficulty meditating. Okay? I suspect that people like Sigmund Freud and Carl Jung will have difficulty meditating because they came from a time when psychology is very new. There's no such thing as ethics and so on. So all those ideas and their involvement with people with problems are going to come into their heads, so they get distracted. Sometimes when we meditate, we start thinking, oh dear, I didn't do this well, or did I break this precept, right? So that's why keeping the precepts is very important, very helpful in this way. Then if you do that with a cultivated body, your mind is steady. Okay? So you notice here on the board, I've written a few things. This diagram here, okay, I can sit down and look at it. Okay, so there you are, sila, moral virtue, right? Sila also means habit, by the way, by nature. So we should be by nature morally cultivated people. In other words, we understand why we keep the precepts, because that helps us to cultivate the mind. So once your mind is cultivated, then the word used there, the adjective is bhavita chitta. Bhavita chitta, the one whose mind is cultivated. Once whose mind is cultivated, his body also should be cultivated. They kind of go together. So this is in terms of the three trainings. Okay, so you have under sila, you have one who's cultivated in terms of the body. Then the next thing you should do is, in Pali we say yoniso manasikara. I love this because it sounds very funny to a lot of people. As I said, it sounds like it's like Japanese food. If you don't know the word, you think it sounds like some Japanese food. Actually, yoniso means going back to the source, going back to the womb. Even yoni, I mean womb. Yoni. You see that the ancient Indians don't have any qualms about anatomy of people. Yoni actually means a woman's organ. It also means the organ of generation. Okay? It can refer to the womb also. So yoniso is a kind of adjective or adverb. It means having to do with the womb, origin of things. Manas means mind. Manas means mind, and then you have kara means action. Kara is action. And you got the infix I or E, I plus E is to give you the verb or the participle action of the mind acting in a certain way. So we can translate manasikara as considering, paying attention, okay? Considering, paying attention, or attending, okay? So yoniso manasikara is a very important word if you want to cultivate your mind. We can translate yoniso in this case a bit freely, and that means we translate the meaning in English in the simple, clear English way would be wise consideration. So yoniso manasikara, a good translation would, in my opinion, would be wise consideration. Sometimes skillful attention and so on. You have a translation like that. But very important thing to know is the meaning. What happens with yoniso manasikara? What do we do if we yoniso manasikaroti? That's the verb. Basically, again, it goes back to what I said first just now, impermanence. If you practice yoniso manasikara, that means you are wisely attending to all the things you see around you. Personally, socially, physically, everything is impermanent. If you accept this perception of impermanence, the quality of your life will be more easy, happy. You're not going to get upset more easily. impermanence, because everything is impermanent. If something bad happens, you say, oh, it's okay, it's impermanent. Something good happens, you don't say it's impermanent, therefore we should value it, right? So that's the first thing, impermanence. Well, you can say Yoniso Manasikara means you apply the three characteristics to whatever is going on before you or within you. That is the basic idea behind Yoniso Manasikara. So as long as you apply this understanding, you are safe. And one thing we often do not say is that you should apply Yoniso Manasikara also to views and ideas. These are very important. Unfortunately, we forget it, because I don't know, I've come to the understanding now, I think Dharma teachers will be the last people to awaken. We are the last teachers to really enter Nirvana. Because we are very strong in our views. As long as we are strong in our views will hold us back. We will be limited by our views. And this is the most difficult thing to tell Dharma teachers, that you are limited by your views. Because if you get upset, then obviously he has failed. If he doesn't get upset, maybe he's not listening to it. What does that mean? We come to the parable of the raft here. The Buddha says even the Dharma is meant to be used like a raft. A man comes to this stretch of water which is very dangerous with all kinds of crocodiles and stuff. So he wants to cross over, maybe no crocodiles. Crocodile you can't really swim across, very dangerous. Let's say the waters are a bit rough, okay? And you need to cross over, there are no bridges, there's no ford there. So the Buddha says, what would you do? You put together a raft, a makeshift raft, a few twigs, a piece of wood there, or dry wood that can float. You bundle it together. It's a makeshift raft, not a nice looking raft, a makeshift raft. And you tie it together and you will float, that's good enough. Then you go on the top of it, you paddle with hands and feet according to the parable. And then you move across. And once you are across, you don't carry that raft with you. You don't need it. Number one, you can build one more like that anywhere if you want to. Number two, you already crossed to the other side, you're safe. So the Dharma is like that. All those views that we have been learning, even the things I'm talking to you now, it's for the moment, it's provisional. And there are many, many other views. All those great sounding teachings we hear here and there. Every Sunday like today, you'll hear them over 100 places in Singapore. They are all provisional. They help us to move on. Okay? So ultimately, if you understand their views, then you find there's nothing more to say. That is why in the earlier stages of the Buddha's time, the first 10 years, let's say, he is called the Muni, M-U-N-I, Muni. The Muni, what Muni translates as silent sage. The key word there is silence, and the wisdom of a Muni is called Moneya, the wisdom of silence. The word Moneya is very interesting spelling. M-O-N-E-Y, money, and you add a Y-A, money, okay, Moneya, okay? So it's the wisdom of silence. Here, silence, the silence of knowledge. Of course, then you become philosophized. It is the emptiness that contains everything. It's the silence that contains all sounds. Very, very great way of talking. But none of this actually applies to it. But it's very nice to talk about it that way, definitely. But ultimately, you have to be silent. So, remember, it's very easy to understand this. All views are provisional. Why are we learning the suttas now? Because this is like a step on the Dharma ladder. This is one rung, you step on it so that your foot is firm and stable. Then the other foot goes up. You come another time, you listen to another sutta, you go elsewhere, you hear another teacher teaching you, then you understand better. Oh yeah, okay, things are coming together now. And then you go up and up and up like that. I've given up so many old views long ago, 30, 40 years ago, right? So we go up this level, and you have to do that, because if you don't let go of your past views, you will never grow. And one of the signs is you won't be friendly with people. Why? Because you're afraid that you'll be debunked. You don't want to argue with people, maybe. So you tend to be very protective of your views. So these are all signs that you're insecure, right? Whereas a teacher who is open and who, in a sense, has realized something, he'll be very open to you, very friendly. The Buddha was like that. So remember, you have to let go of these views before you can progress. So coming back to Yoniso Manasikara, everything is impermanent, including our views. We can't help but have views because we are still looking. We are still looking, so we have views. And they can be very beautiful, they can be very useful, but they all belong to a certain landscape. We have to leave them behind and we have to move on. Okay? So when we move on, what do we get? You have, samadhi comes in now. Okay? So once you're able to accept things are impermanent, then you're not worried. Oh, this teacher A says this, teacher B says that, teacher C says another thing. Alright, even within the same system, same yana, you might find different opinions. You say it doesn't matter. But once you sit down and calm yourself, you don't have to worry about all those views. In fact, if you think about those views, you won't be able to meditate. So no matter what we learn, once you sit and meditate, no matter what religion you belong to, you have to let go of those things. Now this is what I'm so happy and surprised with how meditation is going around today. Within a decade, all the religions as far as I know, and I mean all the religions in Singapore, major ones, have accepted meditation. Now, if all the great teachers in these different religions sit down and meditate, that's one thing we all can do together peacefully. No need any interreligious dialogue. Because sitting together peacefully in meditation is the most wonderful thing we can do. And then when you come out of that peace and you talk to each other, you tend to talk about peace. That's really wonderful. Once, one of those Buddhist leaders in Singapore, he told me, he said, this one of those theological seminaries, one of those Christian colleges in Singapore, the lecturer, the professor there is giving a seminar on mindfulness. That's the third wave word for meditation. He said, I would like to sponsor you. Let's go and see what they are talking about. I said, yeah, that would be fun. See how it is. We're not talking about Catholics here, we're talking about Protestants talking about meditation. It's about mindfulness. Everything is so familiar. Occasionally we'll talk about mindfulness, talk about calm, we talk about focus, talks about overcoming distractions, and here and there we'll mention God, and so on. If you remove the word God, it might as well be a Buddhist talk. So and we were smiling. I said, yeah, all this sounds very familiar. That's good. Finally, it's got to them. So this is something Buddhism has to offer, the Buddha has to offer all religions, peace of mind. And they have to come back to the Buddha's teaching for this. Now if they need to do that, what about us as Buddhists? We should treasure this wonderful teaching of the mind. Don't be too concerned about all these strange doctrines and imaginative ideas of all kinds of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. But this peace of mind is the source of all these ideas after all. So go back to the source. Samadhi refers to this focused mind, where a bit higher now, unified mind, if you like, Samadhi, the mind has settled. Once the mind is settled, it becomes calm, becomes clear. So that you have two other words there, samatha, vipassana. Or rather, I would say you use samatha, vipassana to attain samadhi. How do we do this? Let me go into a bit of basic understanding here. You can use, for some people, they use breath meditation because when they watch the breath, they feel more and more peaceful because the breath by nature, if you go on watching it, the breath will become more and more peaceful. And also, you find these experienced meditation teachers, once they sit on the Dhamma seat to meditate, the tone of their voice will change. They will sound very different, very calm and peaceful. That's a very important part of the process. Then, if breath doesn't calm you down, Then you do loving kindness. For loving kindness, you use a bit more words and visualization. So people who are active-minded will find loving kindness more settling. Okay. So when either one of these will help you to be calm, or maybe both combined. Once the mind is calm, you go on enjoying the calmness. We don't rush it. Enjoy the calmness. You know, the thing about some of these meditators, these beginners, they get into a calm state, their breathing stops. They don't know what this is. Because of their daily life, used to all this hectic rush and excitement, they thought that something is wrong. Suddenly there are no thoughts. Suddenly the mind is so still. And suddenly their breath stops. They force their breath. They start thinking, what is this? There goes their meditation. And then they come and tell the teacher, how come I can't meditate? You see? So this is where the teacher just tells them, that's the right thing you've experienced. You know, don't worry about it. Peace of mind is good. Don't push it away. You see? So this is a surprising thing. You know, I noticed how that actually is. Say, how come it's so peaceful? Huh? How come I don't see my thoughts anymore? And so I say that's the right thing. Okay? And you get used to it. It's very peaceful. So enjoy that peace as much as you can. And this is really precious. You know. That is why you see me very happy at the end of the class. You know. After that, I don't have to talk anything. I don't have to think anything. I'm just at peace. I'm going home. You know, you have that 10 pictures of the cow herding boy, in the Zen tradition. Towards the end, picture 8 or 9, you see this boy, he's already captured the buffalo, tamed it. So he's going home and the buffalo is following him safely behind. He's tamed this buffalo. And then he reaches home and then the last one empty, nothing, a big zero. And you feel so good and happy, you've done your job, so to speak. So hold that peace as long as you can when you meditate. Smile at the peacefulness. Whisper, peaceful, peaceful, whatever, hold it. Suddenly look at it. Internalize it. Now once you're able to sustain that kind of stillness, then you have one of the secrets of clear thinking and a creative mind. In other words, the next time you look at the suttas or you want to write something, your mind is clear. But more important than that is you use that clarity like a telescope with all the lenses very clear, very clean, to direct your mind. So this is where it's called directed meditation. You have undirected meditation, directed meditation. You direct your mind and reflect on those, what you see before you in the way we mentioned earlier. All these are impermanent. So when we go on doing this, wisdom arises. So wisdom comes in that way. At first you do not know what it is. But over time, you begin to be at peace with the things that happen to you. For example, things begin to fail. Things don't work very well. You're not upset as before. You accept failure as you would success because you know that's the nature of things. And you know, for example, that you learn more from failure than from success. And that there's always something else to do, like the Buddha says in the Alabaniya Tana Sutta. When you have done something, when you put in all the effort that you can, and this thing that you're trying to do still does not succeed, or despite all your efforts, you still have not succeeded, what do? Ask yourself the simple question, what do I do next? If you can do that, you are basing that response on wisdom. You understand the impermanent nature of things. That failure itself is permanent, success itself is permanent, the headwinds don't trouble you. So, of course, this wisdom is deeper than that. You begin to understand how your mind works. You begin to understand the nature of defilements and so on. And that's when you're heading higher. Okay? You begin to let go all ideas. Now this is the toughest thing to do, to let go of ideas. I deal with a lot of ideas when I write. Right now I'm updating my essay on free will, and I've got to read a few hundred pages of notes because there's so many of these brilliant philosophical minds now who are writing about Buddhism and free will. And this is a topic which the Buddhists themselves have difficulty dealing with because we don't talk much about it. And the term free will is a Western category, it's a philosophical idea, but it does apply to Buddhism because of the way the Buddha taught the teachings. So imagine all these ideas that come to, I have to sit there and I have to put it all together in a nice way. Number one, so that Ratna can understand it. Because if she can understand it, no one else can understand it. Besides the scholars it is, who are not very helpful to us anyway, in terms of Buddhism. It's not that they are useless. I'm saying they won't give you Dhamma talks. So in other words, I have to simplify all these thousands of pages of ideas in the light of the Dhammas and Suttas. And then suddenly, there goes the bell for lunch. Now I can't be, thinking all these things while having my lunch, I got to forget about it. So you got to leave it at the desk, right? Okay, just forget about it. There's a problem with this kind of work, because if I were to suddenly die and I say, oh dear, I've only finished 50 volumes, I'll die, I become a preta, So I have to just forget about it once I leave my desk. And that's very important. You got to, whatever you do is like that. So in a sense, okay? We have, many of us here do temple work, and so a lot of work to do in the temple. And the toughest part is dealing with people, right? But once you leave the temple door, you go out there and say, okay, that's it, I'm going to leave everything behind. So this is where Buddhism will say, leave the fire behind, don't bring it home. Okay? So it's something like that. Of course, it's not always simple, but something like that. We must learn to renounce certain things and leave them where they are meant to be. And then when you come back, you find it's easier to work with that situation. You have applied some kind of wisdom then in your normal, mundane way of doing things. My point here is that we learn to let go of all our views, likes and dislikes. One of my fears today is coming for a meeting where there are other Buddhists whose views are different from mine. I often tell myself, what have I got myself into? I shouldn't have agreed to join the group because we are of such different views and people have such strong opinion. It's very difficult to make friends, and I feel very uneasy if I cannot talk with someone as a friend, and most of us feel that way. But then I tell myself, people change all the time. If you come with a view that you hate this guy, of course, you won't like the situation. So just come, see what happens, talk to people. Don't come with any views as far as possible. Deal with the views as they arise. Okay? And you find it's not so difficult after all. And even if the worst were to happen, deal with it. Because nothing is worse than ignorance and delusion. So this is, you apply this wisdom in your Dhamma work also. There comes a time when you must clear away all these views and you can sit there peacefully for half an hour, 1 hour. These thoughts don't trouble you. They may come occasionally like a streak of lightning, but then you just push them to your background. If you can sustain this kind of mind where you clear away all this worldliness and frivolities, then you will attain jhana. Ideally speaking, jhana here means you have transcended your 5 senses. Eye, ear, nose, tongue, body doesn't trouble you anymore. You don't have to deal with those input anymore. Even the mind has become still, samadhi, remember? So you don't have to process your thoughts anymore. It's pure mind in a sense like a mirror, just a mirror by itself, reflecting, that's all. But even here, there's nothing to reflect because the mind is so peaceful. So jhana is that ability for the mind to be by itself. Very calm, very joyful, very bright. In the Anguttara Book of Ones, the Buddha said the mind is very bright, by nature bright. This is the reference here. So that's jhana, or dhyana in English, in Sanskrit. Enjoy this jhana, enjoy this peace as long as you can because it keeps your mind clear. then when you come out of it, you direct this clear vision to whatever you are studying the suttas, to your daily life. And what you see there in the spirit of the three characteristics become panya. Notice panya, the nya means knowledge, pa strengthens it. In Sanskrit, prajna, pra plus janya. Okay? It's a wisdom that is deep, to be very simple. So, in simple terms, you got to learn to calm your mind first before wisdom can arise. And when wisdom has arisen, when calmness has arisen, you got to look at it with wisdom. So the two must be balanced like the two wings of a bird. Okay? So that's the meaning here. So I've taken a bit of a long time to explain to you this part. Okay, let's go on to the third one now. Attainer of neither calm nor insight. 4.1. Here Bhikshu says, for that person who is neither an attainer of inner mental calm nor an attainer of higher wisdom, that is insight into states, he Bhikshu should approach both an attainer of inner mental calm and an attainer of higher wisdom, that is insight into states of this, with these words. So in the case of a person who is unable to meditate either way, he should approach both kinds of teachers with these kind of questions. How also should the mind be steadied? How should the mind be composed? How should it be unified? How should it be concentrated? And then also ask the second set of questions. How also should formations be seen? How formations should be comprehended? How formations should be penetrated? Right? So he has to learn from both teachers. Okay? And then the teacher will reply accordingly. So this is where someone who cannot meditate at all has to learn the theory first, and from there build up his understanding. Now in the case of the last person, this person is a very wonderful person, attainer of both calm and insight. Here Bhikshu is that person who is both an attainer of inner mental calm and an attainer of higher wisdom, that is insight into states too, should establish himself further in wholesome states, be one engaged in what is proper for the destruction of the influxes. So here meaning work towards attaining arahathood in this life itself, especially the monks. Okay, here if you look overall in this sutta, what do we get? My understanding is that these meditation teachers mentioned here, not all of them are enlightened. They understand the teaching up to a certain point. Because of that understanding, they're able to advise others who have not reached that level. If you notice, that's the way it is mentioned here. For example, the one who has attained calmness, he advised those who need to learn calmness. Those who have attained wisdom, they advise those who need wisdom. Then the one who has both qualities is able to advise the total beginner, in other words. But the one who is established in both calm and insight, he should continue his practice, and this word uttaring bhaveya, he should cultivate further. It's very important. It means we are not finished yet, we have something more to do. There are a number of suttas where the Buddha would tell the monks, okay, first you start practicing the precepts, and these are the things you do. Keeping the precepts, practicing moderation in food, practicing contentment, and so on and so forth, but you still need to do something further. Clear the mind, meditate, get the 4 jhanas, but you still need to do something further. And then finally, attain all kinds of wisdom, then you attain the knowledge of the destruction of the influxes. Then there's nothing more to do. Okay? So in other words, for us, we've still got a lot more to do. So we've got to go on and practice. So the sutta ends here. Any question on this sutta?
Yeah, I always thought that the structure was samatha, samadhi, and vipassana. In simple English, calm, then samadhi, which is a focused mind, which then leads one to insight, vipassana. But here you said that the order is different. So
According to the sutta, samatha vipassana are kind of on the same level. You take them as in terms of what I call the indriyas, the faculties, spiritual faculties. You have people who are wisdom based, people who are by nature calm. Two kinds. So those who are by nature calm, they like wisdom, so they got to cultivate wisdom. Otherwise the practice will not be effective. They are peaceful by nature, but then they can't do much with no wisdom. See? Then there are those a lot of wisdom, very wise, can talk a lot, but no calmness. This is what's meant here. So you need to balance both. Okay. However, if you take vipassana as to mean revelating wisdom, sometimes in our society we put it that way, then you will follow the kind of hierarchy. But I think the better word for that would be panya rather than vipassana. Because vipassana is a kind of seeing. Notice the word comes from the root word seeing, not pasati. Not nya, the root word is not janya, it's to see. So we're talking about a lower level here, where there is still some kind of view. So I wouldn't say vipassana would be regarded as the highest level of insight. Unless we are listening to people who are talking vipassana as a meditation, sometimes we do get that kind of idea. That's why I say, where Buddhism is concerned, treat all views as provisional. Then you'll be happy. You say, okay, there's a view, and then from there it's like you have this touch screen. You can just move your objects around. You don't have to demolish anything. Okay, this one you should put here and so on. It's a very comfortable way of studying Buddhism without any fixed views, right? So that's what I'm trying to say. But once you try and fix a view, you say, vipassana only mean this, and when someone say no, then you have to argue with this guy. Exactly. So that's why I say, this is one thing I learned in the last 10 years, I must say. All views are provisional. And you'll be very comfortable with that kind of understanding where Buddhism is concerned. Because Buddhism is full of ideas.
You say pasati means what?
Pasati means to see. He sees, pasati. Okay? Pasati, dasati, or same word. Dasati also means to see. Pasati also means to see. So sometimes the Sanskrit word is vidarshan, same meaning as vipassana.
So you need to say that calm. First, I calm myself always. Then it will sort of lead me to have insights.
Use the parable of the jar of muddy water. Remember the parable of the jar of muddy water? When you put a jar, the water becomes still, everything settles.
And then with this too, I will have clarity, unified mind, single-pointedness.
Clarity will refer to vipassana here. Okay? Then when you have both, they lead to a still mind, samadhi. Okay? And then samadhi, when the mind is very still, everything is cleared away, all thoughts, then the jhana, something like that. But remember, in the suttas, many of these terms, sometimes they are used in a way where you got to see the context, right? So you got to read the sutta in context. For example, the word sanya, usually we translate as perception. Sometimes it refers to the mind. For example, in the term neva sanya na sanya yatana, it is actually refers to consciousness. You just use the word vijnana, but sanya is used as consciousness. But these are all they're not very common. From the context you will know. Yeah. So remember, in early Buddhism, there are no technical terms. The words are usually contextual. Yeah. So you got to see the context. Right? Okay.
Yeah, this discourse doesn't start. Hasn't got.
Ewang Mesutan.
The usual.
Yeah.
Indicating
Ewang
who is
Mesutan.
speaking.
Yeah. Okay.
The preamble. There's no preamble. So how do we know it's Buddha speaking?
The preamble is given at the start of the chapter. Here is chapter. The book.
Start of the first.
Yeah.
First at the start of Samadhi, the Sutta 1, is it?
You find that, say, you go to chapter 4. At the start of chapter 4, you see you mention the Ewang Sutta. No, I mean, it's not here, in the Pali text. In the Pali text. Okay? This is an excerpt from the long list, so they only put the Ewang Sutta at the start of the chapter. This is typical of the Anguttara and Samyutta, because they're all collections of short teachings, so it'd be tedious to put all those openings for everyone. Whereas in the Digha, Majjhima, the suttas are complete in themselves, self-contained, so everyone that has got an opening Ewang Sutta.
Somewhere at the top.
Right, they start, yes. Okay. Any other questions? Keep the precepts well, you go to heaven, heavenly life, or you're born in a happy family where you can practice the Dhamma. From my understanding, it's very important to reflect on impermanence so that you can attain stream winning in this life. Then wherever you go, you are safe. It's like you've been inoculated already. Okay? So wherever you go, you'll be able to practice the Dharma. Okay?
So the samadhi, when you reach samadhi, if you reach samadhi, you go into jhana.
Not necessary. Samadhi can mean a calm state of mind. Sometimes people, first time they come and hear Buddhism, they're so happy and they sit very calm and they're not moving at all. They hear sound, the teacher talking, but they're very calm. So it's samadhi, but not dhyana. And they're very calm. Okay? It's a good sense of peace. So if they cultivate properly, yeah, they'll reach jhana. Okay? So of course, to talk in a very funny way, if they attain jhana, they sit on the chair like that, you carry them, they won't wake up. You can put them back or put them somewhere else, they won't wake up. I mean, they won't come out of it because they are deep jhana. Okay? But of course, we normally won't do that out of respect for them. So, samadhi simply means mental concentration or mental stillness. It is not as high as jhana. Okay, something they use in a similar meaning. You've got to see the context. Okay?
So you say influxes.
Mental influxes are those things that cause us to suffer and get stuck in this world. Asava, the Pali is asava. They are the three or four. Asava means to flow. They flow through our senses. From what we see, hear, smell, taste, touch, then we get attached to them, we desire for them, thoughts arise, and then we get caught up with all this. Right? And that causes us to have cravings, first asava, and then we go on wanting to become this and that existence, and then then we form views, and all this is because of ignorance. So these are the four influxes. They flow throughout. They are sometimes called floods, four floods. So you get caught in this flood, wow, you get washed away. Right? So the Arahant has overcome all these normal views, normal craving. Okay. Any other question?
This thing of inner mental. So if people are new to Buddhism, what they learn? How does he know that this person has attained that level, inner mental calm? I mean, to me, the entry point is important.
Yes.
So that you can learn what are the things.
Yeah. Like I said, sometimes you can be surprised by some people, because they have this, we said, good seeds waiting to ripen. They just come and then they get it. Occasionally you might get such people, and it's really wonderful to have them around. But the problem is, if they get the wrong teacher, then those things won't grow. So by assuming that they come to the right teacher, good teacher, and then they have all this peace, you will know from their conduct, how they behave, how they talk, how they reply, how they respond, they are calm. By associating with them. Remember the sutta about how to know arahats, the one Buddha taught to King Pasenadi, the Jatila, Satta Jatila Sutta. Otherwise, use the two methods, this breath and loving kindness. So this way it is very safe. If they have difficulty with one, the other one will help them. So you tell them, say, don't worry, If you find this meditation difficult, it means you need to cultivate that. So you use the meditation that you like to build up the one that is difficult. Let's say, okay, I like breath meditation. That means maybe I'm a loner, I'm an introvert, I don't like talking to people, I don't like small talk, so I need to cultivate loving kindness. Okay? So I start with breath, and then once I reach level I'm very peaceful, then I go on to a bit of loving kindness. Because that peacefulness in me allows me to open my mind, to remove the hindrances and the fears. You see, the thing about some of these teachers who are not friendly with others, they have fear, they're insecure. They're afraid, I'm wasting my time, or maybe I might hear wrong things, it's not helpful to me. But that means they're afraid, you see. But if they're really confident with the Dharma, anything comes to me, no problem. See, I will deal with it, I'll be compassionate, and I will let go of all those ideas, then they're not troubled by it, you see. Right, so this is why, like I said, if you don't have a good teacher, the Dharma can be your teacher too, then you miss all these things. Then you live in fear, and when you live in fear, you need views to strengthen yourself, protect yourself, to keep the distance from others. So that's not helpful. Then in the end, you become a cult guru, Under the wrong situation, as you grow older, you become more confident, become overconfident, then you become a cult. This is worrying me, My prediction within this generation, there will be some cults coming up in Singapore. So that is why sometimes I feel we need to speak up. Even at the risk of being thrown out, you got to speak up. Because if you don't, bigger problem will come. At least after that, something happened, the person will say, oh yeah, this person did speak up, we all didn't listen. So there is some way of healing it. So this is one of those things, very tricky where religion is concerned. You get lots of good ideas, at the same time a lot of imaginative ideas too. So we use these two meditation to help this person to balance the practice and personality. Okay. Any other question?
Is solitude related to upekkha equanimity? And can I say that solitude is one of the conditions that can lead to equanimity?
You can, yeah, of course. It goes both ways. It goes either way. Okay, let's look at the next sutta, Patisalana. That's what we're talking about actually. Then I will address equanimity also. It's a very short sutta. In fact, it's almost like a poem. But let me just say a few more words before I go on. Equanimity, as you know, is even-mindedness. Or the Pali word means on-looking. On-looking. So it is not looking away, it's on-looking. Remember the context of upekkha. It is the last of the 4 Brahma Viharas. So it's not running away. It is being present. And it's the most difficult quality, divine virtue to cultivate. It's a divine virtue, the quality of the gods. So this is where the Buddha says you don't have to go to heaven to do all these things, to have all these things. You cultivate it within you. So the Buddha is bringing heaven into ourselves. It's a wonderful teaching. First, you cultivate loving kindness, meaning you accept everyone equally, no matter who they are. Very easy. And loving kindness is the basis that pervades all the other 3 qualities. It's just like the 3 trainings. Moral virtue pervades samadhi as well as wisdom. So we cannot say once you attain wisdom, no need sila, no need virtue. Not true. Moral virtue pervades all the other 2 trainings. So same thing, loving kindness pervades compassion. Loving kindness pervades gladness. It pervades equanimity also. So once you build up loving kindness, then you practice it, you see other people are not so fortunate, it becomes compassion. Loving kindness becomes active compassion. Okay? You are moved by the sufferings of others and you want to clear away the suffering. Then people are successful. You have nothing to do. Opposite of gladness is jealousy. You say, oh, these people are happy and then you're jealous. That's the negative opposite. But you rejoice in the goodness of others. You are happy because others are happy. That is gladness. Then comes the most difficult one. we have worked so hard. Let's say we come to the temple every Sunday or many other days of the week. We do this, we do that, and then still things don't seem to go right. Our goals are not met, and so on and so forth. So, if we really understand the four Brahma Viharas, then we say, well, it's nobody's fault. This is the condition of the world. We apply the 8 winds. This is the nature of karma. We have done our best, but the world takes its own course in that sense. So you are onlooking. You see the world as it is. You don't blame anyone. It's the nature of people. It doesn't mean you're totally failed. It's just that aspect where you're looking has not succeeded, so to speak. Because if you give up, then all those good stuff you've done might be wasted, So what we're saying is, remember, all this are impermanent. So you go on looking, then something changes. There comes a point where you need to apply your other 3 Brahma Viharas again. Right? So the onlooking one is like a stopgap, not to give up. That's the way things are. It's the background of the activities. We can't change the whole world. In fact, somebody challenged the Buddha, if you teach all this Dhamma, can you convert the whole world? And then the Buddha said, don't need to. The world are your 5 senses, 6 senses. So, we can't change the whole world. Because what world are you talking about? We're talking about the physical world here. But we can change the world that are our 5 senses and 6 senses. Okay? So equanimity is that onlooking wisdom, if you like. It's a kind of wisdom. Okay? So yes, if you go into solitary retreat, you keep a kind of calm practice by yourself. You are also cultivating equanimity to some extent. Okay, let's look at this next sutta.